Right folks, our next concept, having looked at multiples recently, is about common multiples. So if we're looking at two values, say 6 and 8, what multiples do they both have? Common means shared, multiples shared between them. So we just check for 6, and our list goes 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, and so on. And for our 8s, the list goes 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64, and so on. And we can see that in these lists, the number 24 appears in both, the number 48 appears in both, and if we went on further, I know the number 72 will be in both of these lists, and there'll be some other numbers too. We can carry on. So, any pair of numbers share multiples eventually. There will be no highest, because both these lists go on forever in nice regular ways, which means they overlap a lot. But there will always be a lowest. So exactly what the lowest is for any given pair is a thing that's often useful to know. So here, the lowest common multiple of 6 and 8 is 24, because that's the lowest number that appears in both of these lists of multiples. Now sometimes it is just that easy, so we do 12 and 10. We know our 12 times table, or we can write it out if we don't. And because we know our 10 times table very easily, we already actually can see where this is going, especially if I can do this correctly. We know that 60 appears in both. Now we might see this as a little acronym, but the LCM of 12 and 10 is 60. You don't always need to write the full lists out. If you know your times tables well enough, you can spot it in your head. So that was a fairly simple one. Now there are a couple of catches with this, a couple of things you might not need to be pointed out. So if we pick this particular pair, 5 and 7, we get 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and then we do our 7s. We can see that 35 appears in both lists. Now you might actually notice that 35 is 5 times 7. That's the worst case scenario. The common multiple you can always get is multiply these together. And we can check that with these previous two. 6 8s, in fact, is on both lists, and 12 10s would be on both lists as well. But sometimes there's a lower option. They meet before that. But the last place they could put, the highest place they could meet for the first time is when you multiply them together. Okay, and that's because these are relatively prime. In fact, they're prime themselves. And we'll get to what that means a bit later. And then the other catch is if you pick a pair of numbers like this. So the 6, 12, 18, 24, and so on, maybe 30 as well, just to make sure that it's not a catch, and then 24, 48, 72, 96, 120. So that's our 6 times table, that's our 24 times table, and you will notice that 24 itself is on the 6 times table. That's allowed the lowest common multiple is 24, and it can be a number that's in the problem. So if you're trying to find the lowest common multiple of two numbers, one of those numbers might be the answer. The highest the answer could be is to times them together, but more often than not, there's some other overlap before that you're trying to find. So those are common multiples. Enjoy.